she not?
We didn't see her, so I'm gonna try to text her once we get started.
We good? I'd like to call the June 1st, 2020, 9 a.m. Meeting of the Harnett County Board of Commissioners to order. And I would like to ask for Commissioner Mark Johnson to have the pledge and the invocation.
First flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You'll pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, we stand before you today as a county and a nation in turmoil from the virus that we had to put up with for so long. It's still going on, and now the violence in our streets. We ask for your mercy on us. We ask for you to come with us and protect us from the violence and end this crazy violence against us. We ask for your blessings for each of our family members and people on this board and people of the county. We just pray every day to you, and we ask for your blessings, Father. Amen.
Amen. For those who are calling in, the commissioners in attendance are Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Springle, Commissioner Johnson, and Commissioner Penny. Unless Commissioner McCoy is on the phone, she is not with us this morning. So, do we have any additions or deletions to our published agenda?
We do, Mr. Chairman. We need to remove item number 6 in order for staff to do further research. And then we have 2 budget amendments. I propose they be added as under 4B. One is for the CARES Act funding that the county received in the amount of $2,462,374. And the other is for the emergency EMS received also some CARES Act funding in the amount of $193,671.
Okay, well, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the published agenda as amended.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Springle, second.
Then discussion. All those in a, well, I guess I've got to call the roll. I'm assuming, being that you're voting yes, being that you made the motion, Vice Chairman Miller.
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming you're voting in affirmative
Yes.
also.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Penny votes yes. So it's 4.
Commissioner Ford.
Ms. McCoy, are you on? So it's a 4-0 vote in those in attendance. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Commissioner Springle, make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Johnson. Any discussion? Take another roll call. Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Commissioner Springle.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Penny votes yes. It's unanimous. Do we have any appointments?
No, sir, we do not.
No appointments, and we remove item 6 for further study. Number 7, consider the Nonprofit Funding Committee's revised 2020-21 funding recommendation.
You should have received in your packet the revised recommendation for fiscal year 21. The total amount the Nonprofit Funding Committee is recommending is $63,500. And do you want me to go through each request, or?
I'm actually trying to find which page it is right now.
On page 88.
It's number 7,
88.
item 7.
88.
Got it. Any discussion? I'm sure there is.
Chairman Penny, Commissioner Miller, again, as we talked about this the other day, I think with the uncertainty of what we've got, other things that this county needs, that the fact that we do not know what kind of sales tax we've got coming in and how much actual financial problems the coronavirus has caused, I think my opinion is that we not fund any of this.
So you're making that in form of a motion?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a second? Hearing none and seeing no movement, I would assume that that motion fails. Do we have another motion on the floor?
Commissioner Springle, I make a motion that we accept the recommendation for the nonprofit committee.
As submitted with no
As
amendments.
submitted, no amendments.
Do we have a second?
Yep, I'll second that. Commissioner Johnson.
Commissioner Johnson seconds that motion. Is there any discussion? The discussion I would have, there's several things on here, because we've got a motion on the floor. It looks to me like some of these, and again, I believe in helping everybody, but some of these on here looks like would be better served, and particularly those who are originating in the church. And I'm a faithful church member, so don't misunderstand what I'm saying. They would be at this time, as the comments that Commissioner Miller made, would be better served by taking donations from within churches rather than being funded by the county. So that's my comment. With that said, we will take a roll call vote. Commissioner Miller?
No.
No. Commissioner Springle?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Penny votes yes, so it's 3-1 in favor of taking it as submitted. Item 8, COVID-19 update and discussion regarding the reopening of the county buildings. Whoever's brave enough to step forward and tell us about that, we will gladly hear what you got to say.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, John.
As of this morning, we've got 288 cases in the county. We have had 27 deaths. We have, some of you have asked about testing, and I have talked to you a little bit about that. I think a good estimate on that, because all of these testing sites do not feed into our state center. We get a fax if it's a positive lab. Otherwise, we don't know how many that particular facility is tested. But it looks like maybe about 1.2% of the population have been tested. There's about 1,700 that I can see have been tested. So even if you added some more to that, I mean, I don't think there's that, you would double that, but I'm thinking somewhere around 1.2%. Certainly it's not over 1.25% of the population that has been tested. Most of the testing that was done last week were at some facilities who were doing some retesting on their residents and staff. So that number last week was a little bit higher than what we had seen in previous weeks, but it's still not within reason when you're looking at these facilities that are doing all the testing. I think the facilities providers in the county are still okay doing the testing that they're doing. They're good with their PPE. They're not being overwhelmed. I think the hospital, I talked to them, I believe it was Friday, and they were okay with their situation. I'm going to check with them this morning and see how they're doing. I know we have had some inquiries about churches reopening, and I know across the county some churches have reopened, some are waiting a little while. I know my particular case, we're going to wait through June. Others are doing some different things. So I think different churches, depending on their situations, are doing some different type things. But anybody got questions or?
I got a question. How about museums and gymnasiums and gyms? How would they open and when would they open?
They're
Well,
closed.
my understanding is going to be in phase 3. Originally, they were supposed to have been phase 2, but they've been moved to phase 3.
So I believe that's the end of the month, phase 3.
Yeah,
end of the
June
month?
26th.
Through the end of June.
26th. Okay.
I think there's some civil cases that have started moving on some of these facilities that have not been able to be open, so we'll have to monitor and see how that plays out this month.
Thank you.
In our country of pushing of fear, and I know the cases, they keep showing the cases going up, but they're also the testing is going up exponentially. What are our numbers as far as hospitalizations? Most of us, from what I understand, most of us get it, we get a cold, and we don't know we've got it. So as they continue to push the numbers, there's this many new cases, there's that many new cases, how many new hospitalization cases are we having? How many people are actually getting sick from it?
I think, I don't have that number right in front of me, but I think total we've had maybe 50, 55 that have had to be hospitalized since, let's just say, since March. And we, you know, if you went to the hospital, you were counted. I mean, if you had to go, someone went to the hospital and, you know, spent the night and went back home or went back to their residence. But I'm thinking somewhere around 50, 55-ish, if I'm correct.
And nationwide, you know,
Oh,
with the number of testing that they're doing, I mean, do I understand it right that most people that get it, it's just a common cold, it's the underlying factors? And
Well, we have had some that, I think I had told you in a previous meeting, we've had some that, this was when getting delays in getting test results, but by the time we got test results, they had already recovered. And then we've had some that we would say, you know, you're positive, and they would, I don't feel sick. And then, you know, we'll go weeks where we've had issues that, you know, people were sick. I think it depends, you know, again, we're seeing mainly with, you know, elderly that are having issues, and those with compromised immune systems.
And I just looked it up online, and on the DHS website, there's 649 currently hospitalized across the state as of yesterday.
Yeah.
So,
That's dropped a lot since Friday.
out of,
How many
How many
cases, let's
cases?
say we, 40, 50?
hold on, I'll get back to that. $28,589.
Positives.
I noticed that, in looking at the website, the HSS website, we have more deaths than in our surrounding counties other than Wake. Can you know what contributed to that?
Well, we had, most of our deaths had come from the long-term care facility.
Okay.
Do you have a percentage, a percentage breakdown of those deaths that were associated? I mean, is it in the 90+% of our deaths has been associated with long-term care facilities, or
Well, I think we've got, what, 27?
27?
I almost believe 20 have been associated with the long-term care.
Okay.
I've got one more question for you. Commissioner Johnson, have you had any evidence of people catching it twice that had gotten over it and catch it again?
I've not seen that. Now, we have had, you know, we've had some, and I think this is with the testing, that they tested positive, and they would go to try to get negative tests, and they look at getting 2 negative tests. And we've had them where patients where we get 1 negative test, and then be tested positive again. So we've had some situations like that. And then we've had some situations where we couldn't get a negative test. But keep in mind, these nasopharyngeal swabs are designed to pick up any snippet at all in your system of the coronavirus. And if you're doing that same test and there's any of those RNAs, DNAs left in your body, it's going to pick up and show positive. So I'm not sure we're at the point yet that we've got the test we need to say that somebody's negative, completely free of the coronavirus.
Any possibility of people being able to pass this to or catch this from an animal like their pet?
I've not seen any result of that. I know there was some concerns of an animal in a zoo, and then somebody had I think it was a dog, and they come back and said that the animal actually did not have COVID. So I've not seen any
Right.
result of that.
And that was actually on TV this week, that little pug bulldog supposedly had it, and then they found out that was a bad test, so the dog was fine. So,
Yeah.
So what are you recommending as far as the opening of the county?
Well, I think we have talked a little bit about holding off till July, that first week of July, and still looking at doing a lot of things by appointment, if you know, where we can, and I encourage people that come in for those, you know, to have their mask, wear their mask. If they're sick, they need to cancel the appointment, stay home. I know the courthouse is opened today. We provided them with 3 of those thermometers so they could check folks coming in, and they're kind of pushing the same message there. You know, if you're sick or feel sick or been around somebody sick, you need to stay home. Do your work you need to do here. Do it by appointments if at all possible. I know they're encouraging. We've got hand sanitizers out in a lot of places there, and they're encouraging you. If you have a court case, you only bring one person unless they're involved in the actual case. And I think they're going to clean around lunchtime and then clean good at night. We're encouraging the county to kind of do the same thing.
So how do you think that things would change in July as far as how the county will function? I mean, what kind of things do you think will be different than what, as people come in for services, what things we'll be doing differently than we have done in the past? What?
I think a lot of it's going to be we've had some conversations. Besides all of the hand washing stations and things like that, we've discussed where we've looked at some of the facilities where if we can designate an office space or a conference room within that facility, that's where we do that face-to-face business with that customer instead of dragging them through an entire building, maybe to 3 or 4 offices. I know DSS has got a setup now where when they come to the window, they'll actually have that initial contact, and then whatever agency within the building they need to see will come down to them to a window. But those are some of the practices we're going to have to look at. And what John said too, I would say again, is appointments. Be a great system to actually do. I think that will be the face of change.
Any more questions?
We've got a couple more updates for you on that too. One of them, this is Paula Stewart. One thing we're recommending is that the Boys and Girls Club and the Boone Trail Community Center open on June 15th again, because they have some day camps already scheduled, or trying to get them scheduled. And we don't have a problem with that, and I don't think either one of these gentlemen have a problem with that, as long as they follow the guidelines that they're supposed to have. So we would do a walkthrough again there, do the same thing they've done every other building, and just make sure we've got everything the best we can have it. So I just wanted to make sure y'all were okay with that. And then the library kind of wants to open the week before July 4th. They've been closed for a long time. They've had a lot of people really wanting to come in, but very limited services again, and they're wanting to open on I think it's the 29th.
They want to open, I think, maybe the 22nd or 29th.
I'm sorry.
We haven't had that discussion.
But I just wanted to know, you know, at first I had told you I thought we should just do them all at one time. I think it's better if we take these small steps before we open everything. Still on a limited basis, things will be open, but I kind of want to get y'all's feeling on that, because we're trying to coordinate the libraries, all county libraries opening at the same time under the same restrictions, guidelines, and making sure we get everybody, all the plexiglass installed to protect the staff.
Question on the Boys and Girls Club, because that's a private entity on a public space. Will we have any type of documentation? We would ask them to sign to hold us harmless in case they have an outbreak or infection, but I'm just asking. I'm not accusing, just asking.
We can run that through legal. I'm not sure what's required, but I know they've got a very detailed list of requirements they've got to follow, but we'll follow up with that question.
Okay, so in other words, they do have a protocol that they're going to implement, and I guess they will make that protocol available to us for our,
Yes.
Right.
records.
They
Okay.
have guidance from the state, as well as they've taken their own policies and adapted them for this purpose as well.
Good deal. All right,
And we
thank
don't have to do anything as far as their space. It's on them.
It's
Like
on
you said,
them,
since
okay.
they're a tenant, right?
you. Okay, all right, thank you. Any more questions?
And then I think Brian's got a couple updates for you, if you don't mind, on the funding, the COVID-19, the budget amendment you approved today for the funding. We've got the plan was due today, but the state has changed it till the 15th because the guidelines have changed again on what that money can be used for. So I've just asked him to give you a brief update on that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we are still working through the funding requests for that. The guidelines were changed last week related to FEMA funding. Initially, the suggestion or the guidelines were that you should pursue this CRF funding prior to asking for reimbursement from FEMA. However, because the state is covering the 25% match related to FEMA, the guidelines have changed to suggest that we should request FEMA reimbursement first to maximize those COVID funds. So because the guidance changed last week right before the deadline, they pushed that deadline back to the 15th of June. So now, given that new guidance we're working through, I'm meeting with Larry today to discuss more about the FEMA process so we can see what's eligible for FEMA reimbursement versus what's not. Initially, we have received a request from an outside agency wanting to assist the county with testing for COVID. And they wanted some of the funding from the CARES Act that the county will receive. However, in talking to John about the county's capacity, we feel we've got the capacity to do what's needed at this time, and we're recommending not approving that.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I guess next up is County Manager Report, Paula Stewart.
Yeah, everything I have is listed on there, and the only thing is the meetings and invitations that we have attached. All we have coming up are just work sessions and board meetings, and then in August, we'll have the annual NCACC conference it'll be virtual this year, and that's all I have today.
Paula, typically, don't we not have a board meeting the week of the 4th, but because it's on the 6th? I mean, I don't have a problem with it, I just was wondering.
Right, we discussed it back when we set the calendar,
Okay.
and, but it's up to you. If you want to cancel it, we can.
I don't have, I'm okay, I just wondered. I know in the past.
I think the way it fell, the holiday was on that Friday, so we felt like business as usual starting Monday.
Holiday's on Saturday.
I mean Saturday. Well, yes,
Well,
but the holiday, the
county-
county holiday, we're off on that
Oh, okay,
Friday.
gotcha.
Instead of Monday, we're off on Friday.
I got you.
And that's why we didn't cancel the meeting, but it's up to you.
And if y'all did, you do it by resolution on the 15th.
I'm good. Yeah, I just wondered.
Do we have any new business?
Yes, I'd like to, this is Commissioner Johnson, I'd like to make a motion that we entertain creating a proclamation to our legal staff to condemn the use of any kind of violent protest in Harnett County through because of arson, physical violence, looting, breaking and entering, and all the businesses and residences. There's a thing they've got going out on social media now called Purge, which I believe means just go out between certain hours and commit all the crimes you want. So if we could get something, proclamation to condemn that, maybe get proactive ahead of the game a little bit. Don't know if it would, how would we draw this up? I know legal may come up with something. I'd just like to make that motion, we do that.
Do we have a second?
I second. Commissioner Springle, second.
Everybody's shaking their heads, so I'm assuming do I need to take a roll call, Attorney? Okay, still need to take a roll call.
Yes.
Well, I guess we're having discussion, but we're all shaking our head a yes, so yes, we've had our discussion. Take a roll call. Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Springle.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Penny votes yes, so it's 4-0 with those present. We will ask, I guess, Chris Appel and his staff to, Brian's holding up his hand, he's got it, so okay, good. Any other new business?
Mr. Chairman, I think with our budget process that's coming up, I think we need to look back into funding or filling the positions at the Sheriff's Department. He's got 3. He's finally at a situation where he can fulfill or completely fill his sheriff's rotation. These are not new positions, these are old positions. I know that in the budget, Ms. Stewart presented to us, she had not funded all the positions that had not been filled. I think it's, right now, especially with what's going on in this country, it might be a good idea to look at how to fund him and get those positions filled. I know in the past he's asked for 2 gang officers too. And if you look at the shootings we've had lately, a lot of them are involved or gang involvement. I don't know where you live. I've got gangs on both sides of me. If you read the papers of the shootings, they're all in my area. But I think we need to look at that and see what we can come up with.
And I've been speaking with the sheriff. He called me about that, as a matter of fact, last week. And so we've been in discussions about that, and I have been reviewing the budget just to see if there's anything we can do. for next year to fill those. Not fund the two new ones yet, but at least put him back whole in some of those positions, the
And I think
deputy.
I think when I talked to him last, he was good with it. He can wait on the gang violence, but he would like to fill his, because he did say, when I talked with him, that, he's used the resource officers have been patrolling, and he said his property crimes were down. Violent crimes kind of gone up a little bit, but his property crime is down because these officers have been patrolling the neighborhoods.
In full disclosure, Commissioner Johnson and myself, and we met with the sheriff Friday morning, I believe it was, Mark.
Yes, sir.
And he brought up the same thing, because right now, the detention officers, I guess is not, I call them jailers, but detention officers, I think, is either 2 or 3.
Right.
But he's got applications, and he can fully staff that, and we know, based on our history, we've had to take deputies off the road to fill that, so I know detention officers. The other one that I guess is because of all that we hear in the news media is those crime officers. It's not crime.
Gang officers.
The gang officers. We didn't fund them last year, and we've got gangs. We also had another meeting with the mayor of Dunn Friday morning, and he said since he's been sworn in, 4 out of 5 deaths in Dunn had been gang related. I believe was the numbers
Yes, sir.
he gave us. So, and then the shooting in Lillington, I guess last week or whenever, that was also gang related. So whether we want to admit it or not, of course, in closed session as commissioners, the sheriff updated us about a year ago on all the gang violence out your way, Joe. So I would hope that we would at least consider that whether we want to admit it or not, we do have a gang opportunity, let's put it that way, challenge in the county. So.
And I just want to remind you, we are looking at that, and we understand all of those concerns. We just don't have the money. I mean, that, honest to goodness, we just don't have the funds to restore all his positions and give him the 2 new. We would like to, and I told him that, as long as we had the money, I don't have a problem with it. But what we did have to cut back, and typically he can't keep positions filled, and that's why we chose to cut or freeze some of his, is because historically he'll have 6 or 8 positions open all year. And that we thought that would be like low-hanging fruit, but it didn't turn out that way this time, because he has been able to, I think when we raised the detention center staff, their starting level, I think that made us be able to recruit more heavily, and I think he is being able to get more. So we're just gonna have to get back at it and figure out so I may have to come back to you with something else to cut. Because if we're gonna restore his funding, we're gonna have to cut something else. So if you've got any ideas, let me know.
I have a question for Ms. Stewart.
Okay.
On the positions he wants filled, not the jailers, but other positions, he will not be required to furnish them new cars. Is that correct?
They should already have them. If they're a current position, they should already have the vehicle. So it would just be the salaries and benefits, not any other.
Don't need to fund any
They'll have to have uniforms and
Right, that was
weapons
my
and things,
understanding
but
also.
not a vehicle,
Right, thank
unless
you.
it was a new position.
Yeah, because what discussion we had, he was not asking for new positions, it was actually positions that had been vacant for a period of time. Of course, like you said, we'd have to look at the total number and find out, come up with the most needed, I guess, is whatever, so. Any other new business we want to discuss? Do we have need for closed session, Mr. Attorney?
No, Mr. Chairman, we do not.
You're our favorite attorney for this, for about 3 meetings in a row now, we hadn't had to have closed session. Do we have do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion we adjourn for today.
Do we have a second?
I second, Commissioner Sprinkle.
I'm seeing all bunch of head shaking yes. I'm not gonna take a roll call. We are adjourned.